just wanted to, I saw one live. I took notes.
Well, he has to request to carry over, basically say the way it's written, we can't. Say that again? No, we'll have to request, we'll have to ask him to request the carryover. Persuade him. Well, he hasn't really specified what he's going to use the property for, so.
Okay, so.
We're going to acquire some property, and we're going to have to relocate the disposal field, I believe, maybe the septic tank. Where would be a good place for me to look to get a cost? Is that right? What? Oh, why is this? Okay. I've heard of them. Capos, yeah. Okay. Okay. No, I understand. I can't either. I know what you mean.
Booby trap. Yeah, I've heard of Wesley's booby trap. That's a landmark out there.
A1.
Less than half a mile, less than a quarter blocks.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I got you. And that's maybe what we get, but we got to acquire it.
But the bootleggers got mad because they were losing money. So they bombed it, burned it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, well it's overnight.
They burned like 3 kids up there.
So I'm bringing the cook with there.
Here's the new car.
I got a hearing coming up next Friday.
Maybe I am.
Come up with
You never seen that street?
Some money. Yeah, those people are in a Westview subdivision.
Michael declared another lot on Caraway, right across the street from the one. So you know the old man that used to have all the cars there. He must have passed away or sold the house. So they've gone in and cleaned up that house.
really get it.
See, it's in a little bit of disrepair from the sidings.
Really, I don't know.
Oh, the house.
I don't know enough about it. I'm kind of on the edge.
Sell it, I'm pretty sure.
Just got the email from
There was
our attorney.
2 vacant lots to the right of it. The one right next to his that house. Somebody came in, the timber company came in and cleared it. And they stacked all over it.
Sounds good.
Permits, stormwater permits.
Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 10th, 2021 public hearing of the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Commission. If everybody would please silence your phones to make sure that they don't go off during our meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission is charged with regulating subdivisions of property in the unincorporated areas of Jefferson County. You will be given the decision of the Commission today regarding subdivision request, and the plat representative will receive the decision in writing within 10 business days. Please note that any subdivision approved today is not complete In order to complete the subdivision of your property, a final plat must be recorded in the office of the judge of probate. County staff will be coordinating with the surveyors of today's approved preliminary plats to prepare the approved plats for recording. The Planning and Zoning Commission is also charged with evaluating requests for rezoning of property and advising the County Commission for their final determination. All decisions made by the Planning Commission regarding zoning cases are advisory only, and the final determination of the zoning will be made by the Jefferson County Commission in a subsequent public hearing for which all property owners within 500 feet will be notified. If the clerk would please call the roll.
Here.
Here. Dr. Brendan Dickerson. Here. Martin Evans.
Here.
Ken Lowry.
Here.
Jay Miller.
Here.
Georgia McCoy O'Neill. Here. Michael Stickles.
Here.
Here. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. First, I'll ask if we have a motion regarding the reading of the minutes from the October 14th meeting.
Mr. Chairman, we didn't have any meeting minutes in the package for review.
Okay. Well, if we don't have any minutes, then I guess we won't have a motion. We'll then move on to our subdivision cases. We'll pick up our October minutes at the next meeting. All right. For our subdivision cases, the staff will present the case to the board, and then we will call for opposition to the subdivision case. The applicant and/or their representative may be asked to come forward to the podium and answer any questions. Our first case is S21-82. This is a 3-lot subdivision of 10 acres in the Marsh Mountain area. The applicant is Richard Funderburg. Mr. Martin, if you would, please present the staff's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a proposed subdivision to convey 3 acres tracts into 3 lots of record for residential use. Essentially, there's already 3 acres tracts here. You can see from our zoning map, it shows these three tracts of land. This is just a reconfiguration of those right here along Bethel Road. Staff has completed a review of this, and it meets all our requirements, and so the recommendation is approval.
All right. Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? All right. Seeing none, is the applicant here? All right. Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission for the applicant or for staff? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve S21-0082 as presented.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. All right, the ayes have it. All right, our next case is S21-85. This is Vivlinda Powell's request for a 1-lot subdivision of 2 acres in the corner area. Mr. Martin, if you would please present the staff's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a more or less a cleanup job to properly convey 1 acreage tract into 1 lot of record for residential use. In 2016, there was a family split which involved this piece of land. However, it was not platted as in the recorded plat, and thus is not in compliance right now. So this is a subdivision case to bring it into compliance with our subdivision regulations. Staff has reviewed this, and it does comply with all our zoning regulations. No major issues. Right-of-way dedication will be required for Ship Road, 25 foot from center line where adjacent to property. Other than this, staff recommendation is approval.
All right, thank you. We'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? Seeing none, is the applicant here? All right, great. Are there any questions from the commission for staff or for the applicant? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve S21-0085 as presented.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Next case, S21-86. This is Michael Woodman's request for a 2-lot subdivision of 8.29 acres in the Oak Grove area. Mr. Martin, if you would please present your report.
Yes, this is a proposed subdivision for splitting this 1 acreage tract right here on Lock 17 Road into 2 lots for residential use. As of right now, there's no anticipated traffic operation issues. However, right-of-way will be dedication will be required for along Lock 17 Road, 30 feet from center line. Other than this, the staff recommendation for this subdivision is approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll now open the public hearing and call for anyone here in opposition to this case to please come forward. All right, seeing none, is the applicant here? All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the commission? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve S21-0086 as presented.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. All right, next case, S21-87. This is Larry Thompson's request for a two-lot subdivision of 33.24 acres in the Sardis area. Mr. Martin, if you would, please present the case.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a proposed subdivision of the 1 acreage tract here into 2 lots of record for residential use. There's an existing house here on what's shown as Lot 1, and there will be a section over here on Lot 2 for a future home. That's the purpose of the subdivision. During the review process, the county staff identified existing McGowie Road that runs through this property. It's a dirt road currently, and it's used for access for properties that are beyond this property to the west. And as such, the county engineer determined that the plat would need to dedicate right-of-way and 50 feet right-of-way along the center line of that existing McGowie Road, just to maintain that public access to those tracts of land. With that, the recommendation from staff is approval with a modification to the plat to depict the surveyed center line of McGowie Road and the dedication of right-of-way. And I will add that since this was printed, that the owner has already resent a new plat that does show that surveyed center line, is in the process of working on the deed for right-of-way dedication.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? Yes, sir.
May I speak in conditional support of the...
Absolutely. Come on forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Hayes Brown. My address is 3349 Faring Road, Birmingham, Alabama, 35223. I'm an attorney for an individual who has a contract to purchase 2 parcels that would be served by McGowie Road if it is declared public. I speak in support of the staff recommendation that McGowie be dedicated as it crosses the subject parcel. There are 13 parcels that would be served by McGowie Road, 14 including this subdivision. You can see the subdivision impinges to some degree on McGowie Road at its beginning. The road has been used for many years. It's apparent on Google as far back as 1997, clearly by satellite, clearly visible and being used. If we believe that it's in the public interest for the status of McGowie Road to be clarified, and if the Commission supports staff recommendation to dedicate, it does just exactly that. McGowie Road, if it's dedicated to the public, pertaining to the subject parcel, my client has no objection to the subdivision. In addition, I have spoken with Curtis Biggs, who is the owner of one of the parcels that would be served by McGowie Road, who supports the dedication of the right-of-way, as does his sister, who owns a separate parcel that would also be served by McGowie Road.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Just to make sure you're aware, I suspect that there may be right-of-way dedicated here, but I don't think the county plans on going and actually building a road within the right-of-way. That would probably be on whoever wants to sell lots, to improve and actually construct the road and then possibly turn it over to the county for maintenance if they're willing to accept it. But just so you know, the dedication of right-of-way isn't tantamount to creation of a road.
Yes, sir. We understand. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a question. Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. If you've got any more questions, you're more than welcome to ask. Okay, great. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on this case? Yeah, come on forward. If you just state your name and address for the record, please.
Mr. Chairman, Chris Thompson, 1543 McGilly Road. My father, Larry Thompson, is with me today. Just here to answer any questions about the proposed subdivision. I do have the executed deed for the right-of-way with me today, and upon approval, we'll leave that with the county and to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. I appreciate it. Is anybody else here wish to speak on this matter? All right, then we'll. I've got a quick question. It looks like this right-of-way that's shown on our map, and I don't know if it's this final version shows it, the outline of it in the exact location, but it looks like some of the 50-foot right-of-way may actually be over on this property owned by Mary Christine Knox.
The newer, yeah, that's just, right now that's just an outline, but yeah, there won't be any right-of-way dedication on her property. So the center line actually stays off of her property, and obviously we can't, none of that, this whole will be dedicated.
Yeah, okay, because that's what I was thinking. Well, if there may be a bottleneck right there, but so you're saying that the new plat, there's not one. Oh, okay. Doesn't solve the issue, but so the center line actually goes and actually touches the property line, so that the right of way right there is only 25 feet wide, actually.
But the road's probably on her property anyway, isn't it?
All right. Well, I don't know if there's anything that can be done anyway with Ms. Knox at this time if she's not part of this subdivision case, but.
Ken Boozer,
Sir,
you have any thoughts on this?
no, this has been discussed pretty extensively regarding the right-of-way. And I think that was this map depicts what I think everyone's agreed to.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's anything that we can do to ensure there's 50-foot right-of-way there on the Knox's property, or 50-foot right-of-way, because it looks like a portion of it's on the Knox's property. But anyway, I think this is a cleanup from what all we can do at this time. So I'm fine with it.
In our recommendation, we don't have a specific amount of right-of-way specified.
Okay.
It just says with right-of-way.
They'll have that in the staff report, and it's just their standard 25 foot from center line. So.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Dickerson, yes, ma'am.
That was what they were discussing, yes, which is off the property. So that portion will not be able to be dedicated unless that owner comes and wants to dedicate that right away.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is that this right-of-way dedication is coming about because of prescriptive use of the property, and so there's regardless of whether this gets platted or not, the county's position is that there's prescriptive rights over this lot to get to the properties behind it. So what we're doing here is we're putting it on paper that there's prescriptive rights to the extent we can with this landowner who's before us today in the subdivision case. But this doesn't negate the fact that there may be other prescriptive rights that are out there or anything like that. So, like I said, I'm fine with it. I just noticed that and felt like it was worth mentioning. But that's all I've got. All right, is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Chairman, I'll make a motion with approval for the modification make a motion to approve S21-0087 with a modification to the plat to depict the surveyed center line Magali Road and the dedication of the right-of-way.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. All right, thank you. And y'all are free to leave if y'all want to. You can hang around too. It's up to y'all. You're not going to interrupt us if you walk out though, okay? Yes, sir. Thank y'all. Our next case is S21-88, Odell Summerlin's request for a one-lot subdivision of .37 acres in the McDonald Chapel area. Mr. Martin.
Yes, sir. This is a resurvey to combine two lots of record. You can see here Lot 5 and Lot 6. This was of the Palermo subdivision, which was recorded in 1900. This is a proposal to combine those together into one lot for the residential use. It does meet all our zoning requirements, and there's no anticipated road access issues, and no additional right-of-way dedication is required. Therefore, the staff recommendation for this proposed resurvey is approval.
Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? All right. Is the applicant here? All right. Are there any questions from the commission? We'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve S21-0088 as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. All right. That concludes our standalone subdivision cases. So we'll now move into our zoning cases. The staff will present the case to the board. We will then call for opposition, and the applicant and or their representative may be asked to come forward to the podium to answer any questions. Each side will have a maximum of 15 minutes. The Planning Commission only makes recommendations on rezoning requests. The Jefferson County Commission makes the final decision. All right. And we'll move to our first zoning case is Z21-37, Truman Abbott and Cheryl Abbott's request for a change of zoning to C1 for expansion of a mini storage facility, 0.59 acres in the Rock Creek area. Mr. Brown, if you would, please present the case.
Yes, sir. As you've already stated, this is case Z21-37, the application of John Truman Abbott and Cheryl Abbott. Proposed uses of mini warehouse location at 7141 Warrior River Road in the Creek Rock area. The site consists of 0.59 acres. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed use and rezoning. There was no opposition to this case from surrounding neighbors, and that's all I have for you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is the applicant here? All right. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? All right. Seeing none. Sir, you're more than welcome to come up and add anything to the presentation if you like, or you can just rest on the staff's presentation. All right. All right. Are there any questions from the commission? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of zoning case Z21-0037 as presented.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. All right. Sorry. Our next case is Z21-38. Mr. Brown, if you would, please present the case.
Yes, sir. This is case Z21-38. The applicant is William Manning. His request is for a map amendment from C1 and A1 to C1 commercial. The location of the property is at 7590 Highway 78 West. Property consists of 1.91 acres in the corner area community. Staff is there were several letters of opposition for this proposed rezoning. Staff is recommending that the case be tabled.
Okay. All right. We'll now open the public hearing. In this, I think it would be best if the applicant came forward if they wanted to first. And yes, sir. And just if you'd like to add to staff's presentation and just tell us what you plan on doing and what the need is and that sort of thing.
Sir, I think the letters came from.
And give me your name and address for the record.
William Manning, 5104 Bluff Creek Ridge, Adamsville, Alabama.
Okay.
I think the letters came from, my wife found a Facebook page from one of the residents there. And when I used the term private club, they equated it to Wesley's Booby Trap, which is located down the road, and that's what they equated it as. And I
Yes, sir.
tried to assure them that under the zoning regulations, I couldn't do anything like that.
Okay.
And so I feel that's why the letters came. The term private club kind of freaked them out in terms of, they just thought I was going to try to build a bar, a nightclub, which is not the case.
Okay.
When I came down here initially to pull a permit, that's when we found all the problems with the property and whatnot. My intent was to build a building just for rent. And then, of course, I was told that I had to label it. I couldn't just build some random building and, somebody, whatever they wanted to do. So I labeled it a private club, but I had informed them that my future goals, I have 2 young kids. I want it to one day be something for them. One's taking mechanics, one's taking air conditioning, refrigeration. I'm not going to sink money into it to be in that because I know for my other kids that their life can change real quick, and I've sunk a lot of money into something that they never come into. Then I was approached by someone who was in the bingo business. They said if I could get a building there, that they would love to rent it from me. So that was mentioned. So anyway, when I got with the engineer to define, the plot plan, he had suggested label it a private club because that doesn't encapsulate you into something and it gives a definition for you guys to let me have a permit. And of course, going to the C1, I already have the C1. I could have already done just what I wanted to do just by pulling permits. But the little part that's agriculture, it's off a steep incline, and that's where all the septic runs. And so I just thought it was logical to combine it into one piece of commercial versus, it being 2.
Okay.
And I don't really know what else to say.
No, that was very helpful.
And I know I left it vague as to what I want to do, but until one of my kids make a move, I don't want to sink money into nothing other than maybe just a big, nice building, maybe use it as an event type center, maybe, out the gates. But if somebody came, I've not spoken to that gentleman in the bingo business, but if somebody were to approach me, if the rent's right, I'd definitely let them come with y'all and do whatever they needed to do to make that happen.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you, Mr. Manning. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? All right. We'll now open the meeting up for discussion. And are there any questions from the commission or?
I have a question, trying to make sure I understand it. So
Yeah.
it's currently zoned agriculture and going to commercial. Is that what the report is for?
It's currently zoned primarily commercial.
Okay.
Mr.
And
Brown, would you pull up the map for us, please, sir?
Basically, the slope that he's bringing into this property is zoned agricultural, and that's where his field lines are, is what my understanding is.
So you see that on the map, the red is commercial and the green is ag.
But there's also an associated subdivision case, so that black outline is not the entirety of the property we're rezoning.
Basically, if you, I got a map here that I could show you guys. Basically, the green there. Can I borrow your phone?
Sure.
Yeah, that's what, Mr. Manning, hang tight. Hey,
There's a new boundary line from this point
yeah,
down to this point.
Mr. Manning, hang tight. We're gonna pull it up. We've got it on here too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think
That's
y'all
okay.
had it.
Yeah, we got PowerPoints and all kinds of stuff.
What are you talking about, your case? Oh, okay. Is that it right there? Okay.
So, Mr. Martin, if you would please show us where the current Lot 1 line, current C1 line is right there. So everything south of that line is currently zoned commercial. And then, but that little triangular piece right there, which will be part of this lot that's ultimately created, is currently zoned agricultural. And so that's really all we're rezoning.
And the property to the northeast that will become the new Lot 2, I think, it's going to remain agricultural.
Who owns that? And that, I take it that lot that, that property here that's shown up on, to the northeast, you own that too right now, Mr. Manning?
No, sir.
You don't?
But we've done, the homeowners, if you see this indention out right here, I actually had to give him that property. Well, he was already at a variance, the way they chopped this land up.
Okay.
So I gave him that to get him within his variance he needed. And,
That's Mr. Wilhite?
no, sir, Mr. Wilhite sold all this property to two different people. And he never done all this, which I guess he should have been the one to come do all this to begin with, but he didn't. So we're just kind of cleaning up a mess that he made.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering for the subdivision case. Technically, that, I mean, we're gonna have to get a signature from the owner of that house on the plat map.
Yes, and he's on board. Just because I gave him land, because I was told that he couldn't even get a permit if his house burned down to rebuild the way he's out of variance. So that's why I gave him that property to.
Got you. Thank you, Mr. Manning. All right. Mr. Ziegler, anything else? All right. Mr. Miller, I think you had a question?
Yeah, Mr. Manning,
Mr. Miller's got some questions too for you.
read the opposition letters. The concern is a club. And there's several options you could have chose, but you chose club. When you could have, you saw about your sons being going into vocational business, you could have business or vocational business. I'm just curious about when you chose the word club. That's put the alarm on everybody.
Yes,
Generate
yes.
the letters.
And I don't know, just because I was looking, I just couldn't find the right terminology to choose from. And then, of course, the engineer just made the suggestion, so I just went with it.
It's just raised a lot of flags and generated the
Yes,
opposition.
I knew it did. The minute I seen that on Facebook, I called him and actually told him, I said, man, we used the wrong term. I said, I should have, just made up my own term, I guess. I didn't see event center labeled. Now, maybe I missed it.
See the what? I'm sorry.
Event center?
No, business or vocational.
No, just,
Yeah, the event center, yeah, you're right, yeah. But the event center can,
yes, I mean, that's kind of what I had in mind. But bear in mind, if someone wants to lease this building, because I've got a couple residential rental properties, and I just want to be in commercial, not residential, and this is my first go at it. And I know I'm 5 years away from my kids ever, thinking they can run their own business. So, but no, I'm not putting a club as far as a motorcycle club or a fight club or a sex club. I mean, this is not where I was going with that. And I think, like you say, that's where the confusion came in. When they seen private club, I think it just immediately registered in their mind. They've got a go-go bar fixing to be on top of the hill above them.
Yes, Dr. Dixon.
There's another concern in one of the letters regarding alcohol and the intent to sell alcohol.
No, that was one of my replies, is that I could not legally sell alcohol of any kind. And that I wasn't zoned to have a alcohol selling business or a nightclub. It wasn't an entertaining district, so I couldn't do that, is what my reply was. Of course, I didn't bring copies of those things, but I just made that one reply and I just left it at that.
So I've got a question for staff. In order to have a bingo facility here, does it have to be in the private club designation, or or if it's just in C1, can they have a bingo hall there?
Yes, again, with the caveat that it's paper bingo only.
Right.
And it's ran by a licensed private nonprofit.
Okay, so C1 only, not private club C1, but C1, and that's the way I'm looking at it. Well, it's okay. So it's just a C1 designation, but he's saying his intended use was a private club. But if we go to C1, he could still put in a restaurant there.
Correct.
All right. So, okay.
And like,
That's correct. You have to have a C3 designation to be able to sell alcohol for on-premise consumption.
And like I say, the property that's wanting to be rezoned, nothing can ever be built there. I mean, it's a hill like this. I mean, it drops off into this neighborhood. I mean, and there's a boundary, I wish there was, I had some Google picture, I mean, there's a boundary of trees that they planted in 2008. You can't see them houses, and them houses can't see this structure. Just no way, it's too dense. There's a buffer zone of wilderness. But like I say, there's a septic tank. Yeah, you can see the buffer zone of trees and all right there. But from this tree line down to this house, it is a almost unwalkable incline. There's nothing I can build there. There's nothing I can use for parking. You know, all I can do is the field lines are ran on the left side of these tree lines is where the field lines are. And I just assume that, you know, I'm going to be using the property for that. It just should all be the same.
All right. Are there any other questions from the commission?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lauer, go ahead.
So, Mr. Manning, so this is, when I read through this, it was very speculative about what you're going to be doing with the property. I think that's been the biggest concern.
Yes.
Even just how you have it labeled, it's still kind of speculative. Then I heard you talk about your sons and putting them into business, but I also heard you say they were about 5 years out before that. So, you know, I was trying to make sense of.
To be quite honest with you, I might be 5 years out building the structure. I mean, I don't have means to just go throw $300,000 at this. So this is going to be a long process in and of itself.
Well, I mean, you put a good bit of money in putting this plot plan together. So
Yes, sir.
I know you've
didn't
done.
even know I was going to have to incur that cost.
So, and the building you're planning on putting up, can you describe it? You don't have an elevation view or anything.
It was just going to be a 40 by 60 square structure with a hip roof.
So like a Butler building, basically?
Yeah, Butler building structure, yes, sir. But I was going to build it with no bays, but I was going to have the skeleton built where in the future, if I put bay doors in it, I just remove metal.
Yes.
And it's already done.
So, and the request, independent of what you called you're going to do with the property, is for C1 and then everything that's allowed by C1, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, but likely you'd be renting it out for a business of some sort in the interim until you decide to do something more.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. I want to talk to staff once we get into this discussion.
All right. Well, are there any other questions from the commission at this time? Mr. Lauer, go ahead. Or, excuse me, Mr. Boozer.
Yes, sir. The plot plan you've got shown has access to Turner Road only. Is that your plan? In other words, are you planning on tying potentially to 178?
Well, the only reason we put it on Turner Road is because when I initially came up here and got the process, I had to talk to someone from the Alabama DOT. And when I suggested coming off Turner Road, he said that they would rather me come off Turner Road. Something about the math of that busy intersection there. He said, you know, put only lane if you want it, you know, if that's what's got to be done. But from their math, they thought it was better, I guess, to get the cars on off that road. And of course, y'all may know the gentleman's name. I got his number from you guys, but so that's why that is.
Okay. Looking at your map, it appears that you will have to dedicate some right of way, and there's probably going to be some road improvements.
Yes, sir.
On the road.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you're aware.
We've already got all that drawn up as far as giving y'all that property. And of course, my engineer did tell me that there would be some enhancements that would have to be made.
Okay. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Boozer. Are there any other questions from the commission for the applicant? All right. Mr. Lowry, you have some more questions for staff?
I do. So, Mr. Brown, you know, when we talked about this in pre-meeting, we talked about tabling it for established use. I mean, we've got, I won't say we have clarity, but we understand what he's asking to do. And Mr. Manning seems to understand that if we recommend approval of C1, that he would only be able to do those uses which are allowed under the zoning regulations for a C1 property. So based on that, do you still hold with the recommendation to table, or can we proceed with it?
Oh, I mean, you can certainly proceed. I mean, I would suggest probably still limiting the uses, perhaps to the uses that he mentioned, an HVAC shop, an auto mechanic repair shop, an event center. You know, I certainly think it's within your realm to limit the uses to the specific uses that he mentioned. Those are probably the uses that he'll pursue if he's going to rent out the facility. You know, because he's 5 years out from any of his children again, you know, potentially using that site or building.
Well, but what about, I mean, I want to back way up as part of the discussion. I'm sorry if I'm just jumping in, but, all right, this is adjacent to Highway 78. This is a blank slate, and we're going to zone this for the first time. What zoning classification do we put this property for adjacent to a major highway?
Commercial?
It'd be commercial. And that's what it is now, and there's an expansion of it up a slope so they can bring the fill lines in. You know, I don't know that we pigeonhole it to you know, a mechanic shop or an HVAC shop or anything like that. You know, you know, and I mean, I understand there's residential behind it. There's always needs to be sensitive to surrounding properties, but the existence of the commercial on the majority of the property anyway. In fact, if my rough kind of view of this is right, it looks like the building and all the parking and everything that he's proposing is actually all going to be within the existing C1 zoning classification.
Essentially.
So really the area that we're talking about rezoning for commercial is really a slope. And I think that it's an area that's unlikely to be built on and unlikely to really have any kind of additional impact on the residential. So that's just kind of my initial assessment. Just a second, Mr. Brown. I want to hear from Mr. Brown.
I'll just simply add that typically when there are rezoning cases, not myself, but this body typically wants to know what the use is.
Yeah.
And in this case, we don't really know. I agree that it's appropriate for a C1 zoning, but you know, and he submitted a plot plan. That plot plan could change depending upon what the use is. So moving forward, you know, I would at least want to know to some degree.
I agree with you 100%. I think this, though, I agree with you that we'd like to know what's going there. But since there's already commercial in the majority of the property, and we're talking about bringing a little bit more in, I think that the use is already established there. But, yes, I 100% agree. If this was agricultural property and they wanted to come in and just go to C1 speculative and we didn't know the uses and we didn't know what protections we needed to have for surrounding residential and things like that, that's a different analysis in my view. But thank you for adding them. That's a point well taken.
So along those lines, I mean, what I was thinking about was that we have a covenant that it be substantially that it basically the development follow the submitted plot plan substantially.
Okay.
And then if he needs to change it, then he needs to come back to us and talk about what it's going to be.
All right, staff question real quick. So can you have nude dancers in a C1 classification?
No.
Can you sell on-premise alcohol in a C1 classification by in and of itself, just by way of its classification of C1?
That is a no.
All right, okay.
They can do it as a restaurant.
Yeah.
But
They got to serve food.
They have to serve 70% of sales have to be food. That also aligns with the ABC license, and they would also need a designation of C1A from the Planning Commission and approved for a beverage license by the county.
Okay, so today,
That's the only nuance to that.
voting on his case today as C1 doesn't mean we are not allowing a bar.
That's correct.
We are not allowing a strip club.
That's correct.
And if we're allowing the only thing that has been discussed that would be allowed is paper bingo. But that is currently allowed on C1 zoning, which is the majority of his property now anyway.
That is correct.
All right. Okay. Dr. Dixon.
If there are events, and the event, whatever they are, they want to serve alcohol, let's just say it's a wedding, and they want to serve alcohol, is that allowable?
They wouldn't be allowed to sell alcohol.
But they can serve it.
Well, correct.
Like
Long
the
as they don't
caterer
require
can bring it in and serve it, right?
That's correct. Well, and again, they would have to, there's a special ABC licensing for that.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to hire a company who's licensed that can do that.
Essentially, if you BYOB, there's not a license that's attached to the property, you couldn't do that. Again, that applies to any property that's C1 in the county.
But what I was gonna add is, there's a bingo hall already right there. Not on that property, right across the street, there's already a bingo hall there. I just don't see the big hoopla about the bingo halls.
Where are you talking about? You talking about the wedding place?
Yes, that is a bingo hall now.
But, some of these letters, people are complaining about the fact that.
Well, I don't know, I'm just saying, I just knew it was there, and I was like, well, I don't know why they upset about a bingo place when there's one already there.
That's why they were complaining.
I understand, I just didn't know if y'all knew there was one sitting there already.
I don't know about the bingo business really, but are you saying that since there's one already there that it wouldn't be profitable for y'all to have one close by?
Well, no, I'm just saying I don't understand, but yet now she's saying they're complaining about it too, so my argument's kind of not relevant, I don't suppose. I was just saying there's one in plain sight of that whole, except for the neighborhood, they can't see up on the highway, but,
Okay.
Okay, so if we consider this typically, even though it's speculative about what the actual commercial would be, we typically put covenants on for things like buffering the residential areas. And of course, looks like from the map here, there's a house to the southwest and
right, and so
there's one behind the property, one to the left of the property.
I think that's built in. Once this goes to commercial, though, there's going to be under the ordinance, there's going to be a 10-foot buffer between commercial and residential that's going to have to be preserved or established anyway, right?
15 feet. Now,
15 feet.
I will note that on the site plan, as well as what you see on the aerial, and in conjunction with established zoning on the property, there is a 35-foot buffer within that setback. You may want to keep that as well. 15 feet is required. They're showing 35 on the site plan. They've got 35 from previous zoning.
and trust me, the buffer already exists.
Yeah, but a covenant would prevent you from going in and
Exactly.
clearing it out.
Restoring it where I can see them.
Right, so,
Correct.
and lighting, directional lighting, so it doesn't point towards any residential areas.
And of course, the neighbor there that I gave the land to, not that it matters, but I've met him, we've got kids that go to school together, I'm not looking to harm.
I understand, and we're looking to make sure everybody's okay, so I think we have the same goal in mind there, okay? So, and are you okay if we covenant it that you substantially comply with the plot plan you submitted?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so substantially just means it needs to be, you can make changes for adjustments for construction and constructability.
The size of the building and the parking lot.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
and the location, that sort of thing, so,
Yes, sir.
okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm, all right, so Michael, just real quick, were there any other covenants that we should consider? Since we didn't have any recommended, I was trying to go through my head. So buffering, plot plan conformance, lighting.
Well, since the buffer is depicted on the plot plan, it's sort of.
Okay, well, that'll be substantially with the plot plan, okay? So is there anything else we need to?
That and the lighting, unless, again, you wanted to revisit or limit uses, that should cover the
Okay. Okay, thanks. All right. I think that's all for me, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion on the zoning case.
Mr. Chairman, I make a recommendation for, make a motion to recommend approval of zoning case Z210038 with the following covenants. One, that it substantially complies with the plot plan that was submitted for the case, and that any outdoor lighting be directional.
All right. Is that all for your motion?
Yes, that's all for my motion.
All right, is there a second? Second. All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. The recommendation will be approval. That will be heard at the next county commission meeting. We also have an associated subdivision case. Mr. Martin, whenever you're ready to proceed with that, please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, this is the concurrent subdivision case for the rezoning case that we just heard. I won't go into any great detail here other than it's a two-lot proposed subdivision. It does meet all the zoning requirements. I will reiterate what Mr. Boozer had said earlier regarding the traffic improvements for Turner Road that would be required, as well as potentially additional right-of-way for a turning lane once the site plans are submitted to make that determination. Then also right-of-way dedication will be required for Turner Road, 25 feet from center line where adjacent to property. Based on the recommending of approval of the rezoning, the staff recommendation for this subdivision is also approval.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll now open the public hearing and call for anyone here in opposition to this case. All right, seeing none, sorry if you wish to add anything to the subdivision case, you can, but I don't think it's necessary. All right, great. We'll now close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve S21-0084 as presented.
Mr. Chairman, does it, or staff, for just a point of order, do we need to have that modified to say contingent on approval of the zoning?
Technically, yes, because we'll have to go through county commission.
Yeah,
I believe.
It should be it shouldn't just be.
Mr. Miller, would you amend your motion?
Yes.
To that effect?
Make a motion to approve S21-0084 with the contingents on rezoning approval by the county commission.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second on the, I've got a first and a second on the, how do I say that? I've got a motion and a second on the amendment. Any, everybody in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. All right. Thank you, sir. All right, our next case is Z21-39. This is Andrew Wood's request for a rezoning to A1 of 2.5 acres in the Azure area. Mr. Brown, if you would please present the case.
Okay. All right, sorry. So this is my last case for the evening. This case Z2139 has already mentioned. The application of Andrew Wood for a map amendment from I3 to A1 for the purpose of installing a manufactured home on 2.5 acres in the Azure neighborhood at 524 Greer Drive. There were no letters of opposition, and staff is recommending approval. And just to go over the supplemental recommendations from other staff, traffic engineering says there are no anticipated traffic problems. The drainage engineer says there are no new drainage issues that are anticipated. property's not in a FEMA floodplain area. Parking requirement is 1 space per dwelling unit, which this 2.5 acres they would easily comply with. And they would also be required to have a private septic system as the property is not adjacent to a sewer line, Jefferson County sewer line. And so, again, staff is recommending approval, and that's all I have for you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll now open the public hearing. Is the applicant here? All right, is there anyone in opposition to this case who wishes to come speak? Seeing none, is there any discussion or questions from the commission? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval on zoning case Z210039.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. All right, that concludes our zoning cases. We have one more item on our agenda. This is a special use permit request. I will let Ms. Hughes take it away.
Okay, what we have here is a special use permit to allow an on-premise electronic messaging center sign in conjunction with a gas station. There is a non-conforming pole sign already at this location, and they're asking to change it out for an electronic sign, electronic digital sign. This is the existing sign, and this is the sign that they're proposing at this location. The size of the sign is not changing. The size, the length of the height of the pole is not changing. We're just asking for approval.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hughes. Are there any questions from the commission? We don't have a public hearing on this, obviously, these types of requests, do we? We do? Okay, well then we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this matter? All right.
Applicants here, I have a question.
Yeah, is the applicant here? You are? Okay. Yeah, if you would, I think Mr. Lowry's got a couple of questions. Sir, if you state your name and address for the record, and I appreciate your patience. I'm sorry you ended up on the end of the agenda.
Scott Ragsdale, 110 Chula Vista Drive, Pell City, Alabama.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Ragsdale. I appreciate you coming up. So first, a curious question. So I'm guessing you're not the property owner, so you're the agent for them?
Right.
Do you mind sharing who the property owner is?
Yes, sir. It is Sahid. It's Star Petroleum. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
That's close enough. So, I mean, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't anyone I knew. So that was the main part. So, this was presented as what it's going to look like. So basically, the only digital aspects of this are the pricing on the pumps, right?
Yes, sir. Nothing changing, nothing motion changing, just when they change the price will change.
Right, it's just pricing only, no message board or anything like that?
Right.
Okay, all right, good. I guess this will be a good change for you since gas prices are changing so frequently.
Right.
Or for the owner, anyway.
All right.
That's all I have.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the special use permit request, case number 210019M-sign.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. All right, that concludes our meeting for today. Yeah. Yeah, usually we're on the downslope of the week when we get done with our meeting.
This is